Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I watch things and try to learn things from people who try to tell me things that I often don't believe. For fun! And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a decidedly strong pepperjack. I'll explain that in a second. And all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Tumultuous Thursday. So the extra strong pepper. So I had just a little bit left in the bottle of Jack Daniels I had. And so I thought, I'll just pour it in. And of course, there's some kind of optical illusion that goes on when you're trying to just eyeball the... Anyway, the remainder in the bottle was a bit more than I thought it was. So yeah, doesn't mean anything to you guys necessarily, but we'll see how I do over the course of the presentation. But given the subject matter, and particularly given the location it took place in, I may just need the extra mental lubrication. But before we get to all that, let's say hello to those of you who have decided to join me on this adventure today. And that would be... This is Kyle, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Aloysius Fudpucker, hello. Dark Alile, hello. Quinn the Cultist, hello. The Magister, hello. Rotten Corpse, hello. Red Chaos Tree, hello. Somnamnul Nation, hello. Andrea Zhu, hello. Mr. Joestar, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. John Smith, hello. Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov, hello. That one Servant of Satania, hello. Keeverdam, hello. You're Ridiculous Lunatic, hello. Black Belt for Christ, hello. Vera Orlov Ashmedai, hello. Hammond Beans, hello. Angela Ariaga, hello. Zauble, hello. The Other Choice, hello. Dinah B or Dina B, hello. Brutus, hello. Lurking Gopher, hello. Shio Gorath, hello. Twisted Skipster, hello. Catherine H, hello. Blake Hanley, hello. Spittlebuggies, hello. And the gayest person on YouTube, thank you so much. Uno Pleaso. Is Pleaso a word? I don't know. Roger Reynolds, hello. Stargazer Nuts, hello. Tiafurdex, hello. Gunfox61, hello. Tarkata, hello. The Luke Skywalker 2, hello. No One Nowhere, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. Puddock, hello. Hate Camel, hello. Lamented Guide, hello. Purple Pale Perspective, hello. Rolling Bear, hello. This is Kyle, thank you so much. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Mike Savage, Blarg. And Dina B corrects me, it is Dina, not Dinah, like Dinah Shore, Dina. I will attempt to remember going forward. Nathan Willie, hello. Willie or won't he? All right, guys, so what do we have today? Well, we have, as you can see by the title in there, a little presentation called Let's Stop Talking About Diversity and Start Working Towards Equity. Now, I'm not going to count the title in the bingo card. The rule is they have to say it, or at least strongly allude to it over the course of the talk, kind of thing. That's my rule. That's my kind of rule. Now, just as a preamble with a little baseline of where I'm coming from on this one, the word equity is fairly harmless all by itself. You know, by definition, it effectively means fairness and could also be a synonym for justice, depending on how you're using it. However, when put in conjunction with diversity and the philosophy thereof in the modern day, equity, to me, at least reflexively, often refers to equality of outcome. Not equality of opportunity, equality of outcome. Now, I could be wrong here. I mean, like I said, that's just my reflex notion when I see that word in context with diversity, inclusion, etc. So maybe that's not what is going to be pitched here, but like I say, I'm just telling you what I'm going in with as far as my conscious bias, such as it is. All right, have your bingo cards ready, guys. Links? There's only one link. There is a link to the bingo card in the description. So have it ready to go. And as usual, I will play a few seconds for you guys to verify that the sound is working. And if it is, then we will proceed. Okay, you guys hear all the applause and everything? Let me know as I take my first sip. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a bit more Jack than pepper today. Woo! Okay. Nice and clear, says 8 Camel. Dina says, good. Your ridiculous lunatic says, good. Aloysius Fudpucker. John Smith. Heard applause, says Ham and Beans. All right. So, this took place in Portland, I believe, last spring. So we're not looking at the immediate situation, but all the same, it's Portland.
So I'm here.
Yes, you are.
To try to convince you to stop talking about diversity.
Oh, you know what? You're pushing at an open door. I am all there. The cult of diversity, which isn't actually about diversity, but maybe we'll get into that, is something that I've been doing videos on and looking at for about 3.5 years now. And I am fine if we all just stop talking about it, because it seems to impart far more problems than it does solve any problems. Thank you, tall person. Happy National Refreshment Day, everybody. Well, that is fortuitous, because I have and am in need of a little refreshment.
Just stop. Just stop.
Is she stealing my idea for a TEDx talk? Oh, man.
So I want to convince you to stop talking about diversity because, one, the word is misguiding us.
I totally agree. Well, I agree with the sentiment. I don't know if I agree with the conclusion, but maybe we'll get there.
And two, we don't actually care about it. Our brains don't care about it.
That is the hope. Yes. Well, sort of. I guess it depends on what you mean. We're going to need some more definitions here.
So let me explain. Those of you who are like, what?
Like genetic diversity. I think our brains, classically speaking, do care about genetic diversity when we're looking for a partner. Well, depending on what part of the country you're in, I suppose.
Hold up. Let me explain. So we know that about 99.9-ish% of us have some level of ethnocentrism or some other kind of unconscious prejudice.
Unconscious prejudice. Well, prejudice and bias are synonyms, so let's go to the bingo card. Free space is circled. And then where did that one go? Unconscious bias up in the corner. Okay, so we have free space, unconscious bias. Moving on.
Towards people who are different than us. So that's like all of us here in this room. Before you start getting defensive on me and you're just like, that's not me. Hold up. It is you. And
yeah, okay. And
it's you. But hold up.
Okay.
No judgment, because these unconscious biases, they make sense in that they're in our old limbic brain. And this part of the brain evolved back in cave people days. And back in those days,
yes.
If you were out and about and you ran into someone who looked different than you, shall we say.
Okay, if this is going to be like a comedy stand-up kind of thing, it's kind of hard to take seriously someone who's joking all the time, but who knows. Thank you, Lady Gopher, for the Dog Cat Fox. We are number one. We are number one. Oh, Dog Cat Fox. You are the greatest pet ever, created in a lab to live on the moon. Okay, well, so far, all things being equal, not necessarily equity, but all things being equal so far, she hasn't said anything that's completely off the ranch, so to speak, although there are hints. Thank you, Jordan Edwardson, for the other Dog Cat Fox. How's it going? Goes all right. We'll see how it goes the more we watch.
That would have been cause for concern. Like, who's this? I don't know you. Where'd you come from? Don't take my food. Right?
Right. So, yes. Okay, you're having a more rational presentation regarding the whole idea of unconscious bias. And that I appreciate so far. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, I got to hit the button again.
It would have been very, very concerning. But now we have a very modern world. We interact with people all the time who act different than us,
Yes.
look different than us.
Yes.
That's normal.
Yes.
But our limbic brain is still catching up.
Okay.
It's still wired to equate outsiders with a threat to our own survival.
I don't know if the reaction is quite that dire by default, but okay. Thank you, Shady Grin, for the kind of drooling emoji. Thank you so much.
So it means that even if our mouths are saying, we want diversity in our workplace, we want a diverse workplace, that's all well and good. Our limbic system is saying, please not too diverse, please not too diverse, please not too diverse, right?
So they're all lying. Oh, they don't know that they're lying, but they're actually lying. Okay. I feel like I'm being set up, but maybe I'm just a paranoid individual. Yeah, I am.
Okay. So.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, maybe my sense of humor is just dulled today for some reason, but nothing that she's said or done so far has been funny. But then again, you know, my sense of humor. What do I find funny these days? I don't know.
Now, on the other hand, there's equity.
Yes, equity. Explain to us your definition of equity, because you said diversity is a word that's being used incorrectly or out of touch or something. Define for us equity in your world, because that's really my biggest question mark on this talk.
Equity, our brain is wired to care about. So by equity, I mean being treated fairly, equality, and there are important differences between equity and equality.
Okay, I agree. Maybe this will be the first TEDx where I'm just kind of like, yeah, most of the time. Okay.
However, we have reached neither in most of our industries and our communities.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, see, here's the thing. It's never going to happen. I mean, no matter what demographic you look at, no matter what statistic you look at, from males to females, one race to the other, you add it all up, there's never going to be a 50-50 parity between any particular demographic and the other. It's never going to happen. It's never happened in the past. It'll never happen. The most you can hope for is equality under the law, that when the law applies to an individual or comes down upon an individual, they are treated no different than any other individual, regardless of where they sit on the demographic scale. That's about as close as you can hope for. But if you're going to go for the Fortune 500 CEOs or the how many women there are in the legal industry versus men who are partners in law firms and so on and so forth, yeah, never going to happen. And that's not some kind of like me cheerleading on discrimination. That's just life. Life is not fair. Outcomes do not end up as equalities. That's just reality.
So for this talk, I'm going to use equity. But the question I got really excited about was, what does our brain think about equity? Well,
okay, I don't know who our speaker is. Is she a scientist? Is she a scholar of some kind? I honestly don't know. I didn't look her up like all the other TEDx's unless it's some rare occasion. So when she's talking about how our minds work, I would like a little bit more of her credentials, or at least her to present it. I didn't see an MD at the end of her title at the beginning of this, so I'm not saying she's wrong. I mean, she might be citing, published information or something, but always helps to have a little bit more context.
One of my favorite studies involved 2 monkeys that were placed in cages side by side.
Okay.
And these monkeys could see each other.
Yes.
They were taught a trick.
Okay.
And when they did the trick, they would get a cucumber piece as a reward.
Okay.
And the monkeys were very happy with this.
Yeah.
Super great.
Okay.
In phase 2 of the study, they switched things up. And when one of the monkeys did the trick as before, this time she got a grape.
Okay. A grape. All right. Let's see. Some emulation adds a little context. Scribelight. Paloma is an expert in the neuroscience behind equity and the psychology on how to improve our work and personal lives. She is a performance coach, trainer, and owner of 1111. Whatever that is. An expert in the neuroscience behind equity and the psychology. I mean, so she has a PhD or something? Ranting monkey. There's a ranting monkey. Hey, monkey, would you like to join me on this little adventure? By any chance? I mean, I've actually set things up to where you can come on if you want. It's up to you. You let me know. I created an overlay to accommodate the two of us on the chance that maybe you get to me today. But it's up to you. I'll keep an eye on the chat for a second or three here in case. Link me, but give me 5 minutes. Oh boy, guys. We might have a special guest in the near future. Ranting Monkey joining us for a dual TEDx. Okay. So he says, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a lifetime in the realm of a TEDx. So I am going to just keep pausing here for a second. You'll forgive me if I don't continue on with the show. And instead, let's see. Well, let's go over the bingo card to kill a couple of seconds here. All right. Bingo card review. Self-vilification or wretchedness? Nope. Takes credit for something done by others? Nope. Equity. Well, she has said the word now, so it's official. Equity is circled. A childhood or family anecdote? Not yet. Unconscious bias? We circled. Gratuitous pausing for effect? No. Patriarchy? No. Leaves out vital context? Not as of yet. We'll see. School to prison pipeline? No. A list? Not yet. Toxic? No, not yet. Anecdote that probably never happened? Not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase? No. Feminism? No. Marginalization? Marginalized? No. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason? Not so much as I've noticed. Word salad? No. Wage gap? Not yet, but when she's talking about equity and outcomes and things, we might come to it. Speaker should not be in current occupation or position. What is she, a life coach or something? It's hard to tell so far, but maybe we'll see. Benevolent condescension? Not yet. Systemic institutional? Again, waiting. Plays victim? No, not yet. Cultural appropriation and white supremacy privilege. So far I have circled equity, microaggressions / unconscious bias, and free space. So only 3 circled so far. And, truth be told, thus far, she hasn't said anything that's completely out of the bounds of reason. But you never know. Give it 5 minutes and it might go somewhere completely different. Let's see. Puttock says, also the 1111 website looks like a stationery store. That sounds pleasant. Maybe? I don't know. Yeah, but I guess my question is when she's talking about the limbic system and brains and stuff, when she an expert in neuroscience, what does that mean? Does she have a degree? Like, I mean, if she had a PhD, you'd think it'd say she has a PhD. Or if she has some kind of medical degree, that she'd have a medical degree. But it doesn't say that, or at least I haven't been told that, so I don't know. Zamgoa says, I'm still betting that the speakers thus are just have a gremlin in their ear that threatens to kill their family if they speak on definite terms, though I won't know till we listen to this. It all depends on the speaker. I mean, we've seen some TEDx speakers who define their terms and give a lot of details and everything else, and still their arguments or conclusions are completely bonkers, at least, in my opinion, depending. And then we have speakers who just throw something out there and then never follow it up or never give it any context. And then you're kind of left all by yourself going like, I cannot assess whether or not what you've just said makes any sense because you're not giving me the information I need. And that's one of the frustrating things about TEDx presentations sometimes. I would love to have a complete, detailed argument in order to really assess whether or not what they're saying makes any sense. I don't like incomplete presentations. I don't like words that aren't given definitions. I don't like arguments that aren't given any evidence, as you've probably listened to and heard me so many times in the past. I want to find the TEDx that gives me a complete rundown, at least as much as possible in a 12 to 15 minute talk, of what their argument is, their theory, their plan, and so on. Especially when it's things like restorative justice, or replacing prisons, or replacing police, or coming up with some new model for hiring practices and the like. I want the details. I don't want a whole bunch of just, platitudes and abstracts. Otherwise, you're not telling me anything. You're not giving me anything to actually assess. So, and maybe that's too much to expect from a TEDx, since it's not TED. But then we've done TED Talks on here before several times, and same thing has happened. Zumgo, a word salad? Not yet. Everything she said has made sense, and hasn't completely thrown me for a loop. But who knows? Once Monkey gets here, maybe things will change. He has that power. The power of Raymond Burr. And if you don't know what I mean by that, you weren't watching The Lords of the Night last night, which will happen tonight as well on Satsu 2 Senses channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Shameless plug as I kill time waiting for Monkey. Let's see, any other questions or anything from you guys before we, fingers crossed, see Monkey here shortly. Let's see. Some emulation says Scribelight, no letters after her name, it seems. Okay, that doesn't necessarily invalidate what she said. Okay, not having a PhD at the end of your name doesn't necessarily mean you can't talk about the limbic system or something. I'm just curious if she's speaking from a place of, expert education, or if she's just being called an expert for what reason? Like, why is she called an expert? What commends her to the adjective of an expert? If she doesn't have a degree, it's kind of hard to assess. That's basically it. Eric Peters says, I shared you. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. We're waiting for Ranting Monkey to join us. There he is. All right, so let's see if I can get this to work. We go boom, and I go boom, and I go boom, and there we are.
Hello.
Hey, that worked out perfect. I got it. Oh, man. See, I cooked up this brand new overlay for a duo TEDx. And my biggest challenge is actually getting everything lined up around the avatars and the screen so that I don't cut off anything. It's not herky-jerky or nothing. And it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks centered.
So
you're a little off center.
Well, I've always been a little crooked. Monkey, how are you doing?
Oh, I just woke up. I got was it maybe 2:55 when I woke up. So I'm not sure how I'm doing. How you doing?
Well, I have an exceedingly powerful pepper jack in front of me and a uncertain TEDx that I'm watching, because uncertain in that so far she said things that I kind of can get on board with.
What is she talking about?
So the title of the presentation is Let's Stop Talking About Diversity and Start Working Towards Equity. Now, equity is always, as I explained at the beginning, equity is always kind of a pitfall word, depending on the context. Because these days, when someone says equity, I imagine they mean equality of outcome. And when they start arguing for that, I always get a little twitchy. Especially in context with using diversity and talking about inclusion, etc. But so far, she has admitted at the beginning that diversity as a buzzword these days does not mean what it should mean. She has said that we all have unconscious bias because of the limbic system from caveman days that still assesses people you don't recognize as a threat, just sort of reflexively. And now she's talking about a experiment, as you saw with monkeys, to try to show that the brain does have some kind of preference towards "quote unquote" equity. Mm-hmm. Now she says she means equity as far as fairness, but I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens.
All right. So here we go.
And monkeys love fruit. So this was definitely a way better reward
What?
than the cucumber.
The food, monkey. The food. Or do you not love fruit?
I feel like that's stereotyping me. That's all.
Do you not eat fruit?
I like fruit. I don't mean all monkeys do.
Okay.
Super good for this monkey. The other monkey, when she did the trick in phase 2, she still got a cucumber. So this was repeated again and again, so that the monkey, the cucumber monkey, she could see that she was doing the same trick, but getting the crappier reward.
Oh boy, are we headed towards wage gap?
Wait.
Are we headed towards wage gap?
Now, I get what they're getting at here, where she's headed with that.
Okay.
But I'm very curious how much of their diet has already been part of this. You know, had that monkey already had grapes before and been like, yes, I like grapes more than I like cucumber. They're monkeys.
Yeah, it's not like they're being paid in money that can be calculated.
Yeah,
it's a preference of food. But okay, well, we'll see where she goes with it.
Let's pause there. If you were doing the same task as someone else,
I'm getting ready to circle wage gap on the bingo card.
and you were getting a crappier reward,
Crappy by whose standard? Monkey's right. It's cucumbers and grapes. But, okay.
how would you be feeling right now? Tell me.
Can you send this to me? Because I want to take that clip out for the next time I'm arguing communism with someone.
A link to the original is in the description.
I'll have to grab that.
Yeah.
Because, let's go ahead, lady.
Yeah.
All of your voices drop. What? Yeah, I'd be so pissed.
Now, if she doesn't say the words wage gap or pay gap or something, that example alone, I'm going to circle on the card. Yeah, by the end of it's one of those things where I'll wait until the end of the presentation. But if she doesn't, by implication and in aggregate of thought, I'll be circling that square.
Here's what the monkey did.
That is kind of funny. That is kind of funny. But again, anyway.
That's validating, right? That's validating. Yeah. So, just like monkeys, we all innately understand how to spot even a glimmer of injustice.
See, everything prior to this feels like it was a Trojan horse, just a little bit. And I know we still got 2/3 of this left to go. I just have a question. Was that monkey that threw the cucumber back, was it a female monkey?
Probably.
Yeah.
Let me stop just for a second, though, because I hate when they do this, because they like to do this with animal behaviors. We can see our own behavior in this monkey. Monkeys eat each other.
Well, I mean, we haven't been innocent as a species from eating each other from time to time.
Yeah, they don't have a thing where they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's they do they walk up and stick their fingers in each other's bums.
Yeah. And so far as I know, they don't have laws or civilizations or,
and you can't look at this and say, okay, well, this monkey has been doing that trick, for 10 years longer, so they get the better reward. Yeah. And that monkey's going to understand, hey, he's been doing it longer. He's got more experience, so he gets the better reward. It's asinine. It's asinine.
Well, it's TEDx.
Yeah. But right, guys, right?
Right. Thank you, Midnight in Exile. This lady plagiarized this talk from a Belgian dude. I saw it 10 years ago. Really?
Well, it's TEDx. Who's going to check, right?
Well, there's that too. Hey, Midnight, if you find some kind of reference or transcript or something at least, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that'd be something.
It starts explaining why researchers are finding that on flights,
What?
when they make you walk through first class before getting to coach.
They make you. It's a plane. You don't really have a choice. It's a single aisle.
Right.
They make you.
That's where the door is.
Yeah, they hold a gun to your head and say, walk! I'm like,
On those flights, there are 4 times the number of incidences of air rage.
Jesus.
Okay.
Wait, on the flights where they make you walk through first class, there's air rage. Wait, don't most planes have like, if not first class, then like, the business class is up in the front and then you.
Well, there are some where you walk through and as you get on the plane, first class will turn to the right and go through the curtains, and then others where you come through there.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. I mean, every plane that I've ever been on, it's just, I've never been on a double decker plane. So like they have an isolated second floor or something where all the fancy people sit or whatever. So far as I can recall, I've always had to walk through quote unquote first class, whatever that distinction is on a particular plane. Even
with that, let me say I take her example, what she's trying to get at here. Because what she's getting at is you walk through when you're envious.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, envy is a very powerful emotion.
Yes.
Okay. I'm missing her point here.
Well,
you still didn't pay for a first class ticket. That's why you're not in first class.
Well, I mean, I don't know what she's going to say next, but I'll just say, because I feel fairly safe in saying, Monkey, welcome to TEDx.
I've done a couple of TEDx's in my time.
I know.
But how you do this as often as you do, I know why you drink.
All right, air rage.
It's a thing. It's measurable. And there's 4 times the number of those incidences when they make you walk through first class before you get to your coach seat.
And the cause of, real quick, the cause of all these air rage incidents is jealousy of first class, is what you're saying.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with where they come from or what was happening anyway.
Yeah.
Air rage by whose definition?
Well, she's done okay defining terms so far. Maybe
I know, but she didn't define that at all.
Well, maybe she'll give us an active example. I mean,
right.
I always hold out hope. I always try to give the benefit of the doubt because I don't have any choice.
Because you're nicer than I am.
Nicer, better person. Yeah, it's a different.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So now experts theorize that we seem to be wired to scan for equity, even glimmers of inequity in particular.
Well, see, here's the weird thing, and I brought this up before. I don't know what her qualifications are. Some ammunition in the chat told me that she is cited as being an expert in neuroscience and the psychology of equity or something like that. Yeah, I don't know what she doesn't have a degree, though, so far as I've been told. So I'm not quite sure what being an expert in something is and how she can talk about experts without citing her. I'm very confused about that part.
I'm just curious with where this is headed. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Like I said, these are all mysteries. That's part of the draw for me. You never know what they're going to say next.
Because it was linked also with survival back in cave people days.
Let's
say that back in cave people days, there you are, foraging, hunting, but 2 days in a row, you get less food than the rest of your tribe. You did the same work.
Well, wait a second. If I paid X for a plane ticket, then I get to sit in this section. If I paid more, I get to sit in that section. I did more work or I was willing to spend more money for one or the other. That's not about equity. Here's the thing. If I pay for, coach, I paid the same price for a ticket as someone else in coach. So yes. I got the same result for the same amount of work or the exchange of labor for money, etc. How do you take the plain air rage situation into caveman days and simple fairness of distribution?
It's called a bait and switch. See?
No.
you take this example of, okay, these are obviously unequal things because they are a coach seat and a first class seat. Those are unequal.
Yes.
But each coach seat is equal.
Yes.
And then you did just as much work in the tribe. Well, you chose how to spend your money on the plane.
Yeah. And by the way, there's that little factor that I'm not sure she's going to take into account as we proceed. Personal choice.
Not just that, you have differences in occupation. I may have worked a 40-hour week at my my job at McDonald's. That is not the same as doing a 40-hour week as a car mechanic.
Or the alternative, you have the money to spend, but you're a cheapskate. You fly in coach while you've got $1 zillion. Well,
I think the world would be a better place with fewer metaphors.
That's very Raymond Burr of you.
Thank you.
This would have been an important early signal that your chances for survival were slimming and you better do something about it.
Yeah, kill the guy next to you. Yeah, kill the guy next to you and take his food. Thank you, Officer Buck. What if you're the one that got the good thing? Would you look to the person with the bad thing and think inequality? Funny how it's only the person that feels slighted that sees inequality.
Yeah, they didn't show that other monkey throw the grape, did they?
Nope.
Yeah, if you want to last through winter. So
the solution is you have to kill the guy next to you and take his cloak and his food. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, or the person who makes the decisions of who apportions the food. I mean, that in caveman days, that's what cavemen do. Or is that what we do? Or is that, it almost sounds like capitalism.
Do we know exactly how it was apportioned in caveman days?
She's an expert on neuroscience, supposedly. So, I mean, and obviously all the professionals call that era caveman days.
And look, I'm not, so far, I agree with her when she's talking about jealousy, because that's what she's talking about right now.
Sure.
People get jealous.
Yes.
Welcome to my TEDx. People get jealous.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. Put some sort of common sense platitudes in front of you like they're like grand revelations or something. That's a lot of TEDx too.
At the time when I was researching this, I thought, well, what does it matter that our brains scan for and want to protect a sense of equity?
What? Sense of equity.
So far, her examples of our scanning for equity, unless I missed something in the beginning, is a monkey mad that a different one got a grape and he still got a cucumber.
Mm-hmm.
And people seeing first class seating.
And caveman days with someone getting less food than everybody else.
I'm not counting that one because she has no proof on that.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't think she offered any grand examples before that. So, yeah, that's kind of pretty much it so far.
All right.
Well, it matters because it means that our brains categorize equity as a core need.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, that's...
All that shows is that we are a jealous species who wants more than we have.
Yeah. I mean, greed, ambition, jealousy, these things fuel everything about human behavior and human ambition. And yeah, survival is in there, like the base survival thing. Like if someone has more than you, you get jealous, you want as much or more than they do as a sense of competition, and on and on and on. Yay, capitalism. Sure. But equity? No, you want more than the other guy. You don't want equity. You want to be more ahead of the game than everybody else.
Let's take her example. They said when you walk people through coach or through first class, there's 4 times as much air rage. Okay.
Yeah.
What happens if you walk the people from first class through coach first? In first class, is there more examples of air rage? Because if there is, by what she said, we're constantly looking for equity, which means all of us having the same thing, all of us being equal. You should get up there and just feel bad about you. There should be suicides in first class for them having too much more than everyone else.
Yeah, you just can't handle the guilt involved in the core need of equity.
This isn't equity.
Yeah, we don't have a core need of equity. We have a core need of, I have enough for myself to survive. And what constitutes enough to survive or enough to satisfy my need for security, etc., it scales with the society you're in and the circumstances you find yourself. But equity, it's like, no, the world is not fair. We learn this at a very young age. The world does not operate that way. The idea that you're going to have statistical parity between every demographic in every industry or every circumstance is impossible. There is no core need for, there is a core need for survival. There's a core need for the protection of that which you see as yours. But otherwise, it's like, I don't think that the guy in prison for serial murder should be treated the same as me.
Yeah.
I don't.
But
I mean, and I argue anybody to tell me that I should think otherwise of that.
She, by her own thing, for equity to be core need, it should have happened already. Because the people who have more than you be like, this isn't fair. I got to give it all away.
Yeah.
Or do those people not have core needs?
I mean, we've been a species thinking like this with our brains as they've been for a couple 100,000 years now. If equity was a core need, we would be in a utopia of some kind, I suppose, or at least someone's definition of it. But we're not, because
do I
life
get a
doesn't
grape
work.
for watching this?
You may have a grape.
Okay.
All right.
And when any core need is threatened, our brains and our bodies are wired to go into a stress state.
Wait. So now coming back to her example, which, and granted, with all the pauses and things, it has only been a couple of seconds. Air rage. So when someone is in coach and they've had to walk past first class, their sense of equity has been threatened.
And it stresses them.
And it stresses them to where they go into an air rage. Okay, and the guys up front in first class, their core need of equity, what? Caused them to give up their seat or not? What?
Real quick, Midnight tells you he found the study, linked it to you, I'm guessing on tweet. Yeah, it's on Twitter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, she just killed her own argument with that.
Well, let's see where she takes it. Who knows? She could do worse.
And if this continues, now we've got chronic stress. And chronic stress leads to inflammation.
Penicillin? Okay, equity, core needs. Okay, so again, all humans have a core need. I walk past first class. My core need is threatened because someone has more than I do. Right? Now, even though that someone also has the core need of equity because it's a human constant, there's a disparity there. So I go into a stress state, and then my stress state becomes inflamed. And then the person who also has a core need of equity, just like I do, what happens next?
Well, hang on.
Okay.
Because this goes back to the same thing. Her airline example kills it for her.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be saying that, okay, I have a first class ticket and I just walked through coach to get here.
Yeah.
I look around and I see I don't have equity with everyone else. In fact, I have more.
Yeah.
Which should lead to my core threatened,
Yeah.
A stress state and inflammation. Which
means you go and punch an airline attendant.
You punch an airline attendant. My seat's too wide.
Yeah. I have access to alcohol and these people don't. God damn it.
I got slippers.
Even though I paid more. In fact, everybody around me, here's my credit cards.
This is asinine hippie shit.
Equity is not I'm sorry. And I know it sounds very derogatory to say so, but equity is not a core need in human beings.
No, it's not.
Human beings, like all creatures, whether they're big or small, whether you're talking about a grizzly bear to a microbe, it's out for self-interest, self-propagation, self-survival. That's it. Now, the collateral effect of what one considers necessary for self-survival may indeed help others. And, in fact, someone's sense of self and the protection of their own ego, the protection of their own sense of guilt, and so on, may drive them to help others, even in the self-sacrifice of doing more than they get back. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, we are all driven by self-interest, whether that's to feel good about ourselves or to feel safe and so on. Or for those that we care about, because having people that care about us is also an aspect of self-interest, to take care of those people who reciprocate that sense of care and love and so on. Now, it sounds cold calculation stuff, and it is because
no, it's really not.
Well, if you whittle it down to, well, let me rephrase. It may sound like I'm trying to demystify the more magical aspects of our human compassion. Okay. But there is a core mechanism behind why we do the things we do, why we get up in the morning and brush our teeth or go to work and so on. There is a self-preservation instinct there. That's why our DNA wants to replicate and join with others and so on. I'm not trying to take away the magic, or the sentiment or the emotion behind why we do the things that we do, because we do make conscious decisions one to another that don't necessarily have to benefit us directly.
Sure.
But we all perpetuate on self-interest of one form or another. So to say that equity is the core need, that they're all some sort of hive mind, that all look for a complete equilibrium in everything that we do with one another and to one another, bullshit.
Do you think there's an example of the monkey thing where the one monkey with the grape bites it in half and reaches it over to the other one? Here you go, equity.
I don't know. That'd be interesting if there was.
Purple pill in your chest. This sort of logic behind equity is exactly why I have a knee-jerk reaction every time I hear the word. Yeah. And they've made me hate the word because they misuse the fuck out of it. They use it to try to, like you said earlier, that it seems to mean equality of outcome.
Yes.
And that's no.
Yeah, equity is it's how do I want to say it? It's been reinterpreted to mean something that it doesn't actually mean. Yep. I mean, equity is a synonym of fairness or justice, and of course, those are abstracts that nobody can draw a simple diagram for. But lately, the interpretation or its use is leading towards no matter who you are, you should get the same. No matter what you do, you should get the same. No matter your talent, your merit, and so on, you should end up in the same place as the next guy because it's the right thing to do. That's not how life works. That's not how reality works. Equal opportunity is the thing to focus on. Equal outcome is not how nature operates. So, okay. Anyway, back to the argument. Inflammation. All right, so we're still on the plane. Now my stress has become inflamed. And then?
We are finding that people who experience recurring racism indeed show chronic inflammation in their bodies.
Oh my God.
Okay, well, I'm going to the bingo card because, I'm willing to take it back if she gives more evidence or support, at least for her argument in her world, but make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. We go from airline rage to racism. That's a lot.
I'm going to need chronic racism described for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because so far what she's done with equity has not been impressive.
In chronic inflammation, as we're learning, it's no joke.
Uh-huh.
It is directly linked to things like cancer, heart disease, general lower life expectancy, i.e., it's linked with early death.
Stress causes heart disease. That's well known, yes.
Wow. I had no idea this. No, sorry. Racism causes early death. Okay.
Racism causes early death.
Yes. That's the only, that she just said chronic racism.
Wait, if we have a need for equity, shouldn't the racists have just as short a lifespan because they know they're not being equitable?
Well, you see, they're acting against their inborn instincts. That's what causes the stress, is that in their heart of hearts, they know they need to be equitable, and yet for some reason they have this belief, and those two forces conflicting with one another causes cancer.
But okay.
Thank you, Officer Buck. So the fatter the black person, the more oppression? What?
And
okay, I see.
Oh God, real quick. Kyle was nice enough to send me a Streamlabs over here.
Huh.
Says, here you go. Go buy yourself a grape. Thank you. Thank you. I'll do just that.
All right. Lower life expectancy. So, okay. Stress, but particularly apparently from her talk here, chronic racism leads to lower life expectancy. Okay.
So equity isn't just politics here. Equity, it's critical to our health.
And again, she just threw out this example. Well, the people who experience racism constantly, and then no example, not a single one.
No, I mean, it just came out of nowhere. That's why I circled the square. Unless she's halfway through her talk at this point. So, okay, we've had the introduction. We've had part of the body. We're going to conceivably descend towards the conclusion and or more evidence. I hope.
I'm not going to hold my breath over here, just so you know.
No, I learned that long ago with these things.
Thank you.
For what? What did you do?
What was it
Stress-
she just said?
Stress equals, okay, I'll back up just slightly. Okay.
So I want to see what it,
In chronic inflammation, as we're learning, it's no joke. It is directly linked to things like cancer, heart disease, general lower life expectancy, i.e., it's linked with early death.
Yes.
So equity isn't just politics here. Equity, it's critical to our health. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew W. Single motherhood causes a lot of stress.
Yep.
It's true. Okay, so now her argument is her way of thinking will make you live longer. I mean,
Yes.
that's the message here, is that what she's trying to tell the audience is, if you agree with me and you behave as I have told you should, you will live longer. I am holding the threat of death over you if you disagree or think differently.
Well, she also
but also roping that somehow into racism all of a sudden for some reason.
Well, that's the thing. If you're talking about, if you can show that somebody who's eaten very well, even though they didn't make a lot of money their whole life, but they had a healthy diet, all things considered, they died much less than a rich person did. Not because of they couldn't get medical care or anything. Everything equal, they still died because they had less than the rich guy.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Saying somebody had suffered chronic racism,
Yeah.
you have to be a lot more specific when you're making that claim. You have to have something that shows, okay, this is what led to it. Because you can have somebody suffer chronic racism in America and be a really wealthy black man. They're obviously not leading an equitable life with me. They have a lot more than I do. They deal with chronic racism. How in the dear world did that happen?
How is Louis Farrakhan still alive?
Indeed.
Thank you. This is Kyle. I left for a second to send a Streamlabs and I come back to racism. WTF? Yeah, I mean, that came out of nowhere and she didn't bookend it with any preamble. And so far, she hasn't followed up with anything else on it. She could have not brought up racism and still made her point. And it'd still be ridiculous, but at least it would have flowed evenly.
If she would have went the pay gap way instead of wherever the heck she's trying to take this now. Yeah. At least then the arguments she made so far would be in line, but that literally out of left field.
Yeah.
With no examples.
And again, we're only about halfway through this, so who knows what happens next. We're at the tipping point, guys. By
the way, lady, not a good idea to talk about racism and monkeys in the same thing.
You're right.
Right.
And the audience is so accommodating. Laughing at her stupid jokes at the beginning of this and now clapping for no particular reason as far as I can tell.
Well, somebody yelled out, whoa, and she says, thank you. Then they all start clapping.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're acting sort of like monkeys with a grape.
But you also have to, do you see what it says behind her there?
TEDx Portland.
Portland.
Well, like I said, this is the reason why, and I sent you the DM. This is why I wanted you on here, because you've been watching a lot of Portland lately.
I did, and oof.
Yeah, and this talk took place last April, so this isn't happening in the midst of the current stuff. But and I don't even know if the speaker is a resident of Portland, but usually TEDx's include people from the locality that they take place in. So I was just curious.
Local, yeah.
They generally speaking, they are local. Not always, but generally. So when I saw Portland and I saw this, I thought, I bet Monkey would want to be in on this. And here you are. Yay.
Still on my break.
So about a year ago,
Yeah.
there I was being an equity, inclusion, and diversity trainer.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Well, now okay. So you're an equity, diversity, and inclusion trainer. Okay. So now I know what your occupation is, generally speaking.
Trifecta of stupid.
And at least in that sense, I can't circle the square on the bingo card because the square on the bingo card says should not be in the occupation or position she's in. She's doing exactly what she should be doing. So,
Fair enough.
And it dawned on me, why are we talking about diversity?
I don't know. You tell me your thinking on this subject, because I mean, at least in sentiment, I would agree with you. Why are we talking about the current interpretation of diversity? Why are we talking about merit?
I guarantee you I'm not going to like her answer.
Yeah.
At all. Diversity isn't what our brains need. It's really just a metric to understand if equity is happening.
Wait, what?
What the hell did you just say?
It's a metric to understand that equity is happening. Okay, so
right.
Diversity and I don't have a degree in this particular subject, but I will speak as a layman expert on the concept of diversity as pertains to companies and institutions in the modern day. And that is to say, you must have an observable surface difference in your workforce based on most especially race, but also gender, ethnicity, religion, and orientation down the line. Those aspects must be observably varied in your workforce to say or even have a chance of claiming that your workforce, your organization, your student population, whatever, is diverse. Okay, that is the definition of what diversity initiatives are aiming for. A observable variance in the people involved. Okay.
But she just said diversity is a metric used to judge equity.
Right. Now, if you assess equity as everyone who looks different must be in the same spot, regardless of merit, she's not wrong. If you whittle people down to nothing more than their surface attributes, and you have a whole bunch of people with various surface attributes in your workforce, you could claim an equity of a kind.
And I get you, but this just what I'm going towards is that this goes against her argument again.
Oh, I know, but I'm ignoring everything she said to this point. And taking what she said,
can't.
And it's in. Well, I know I can't. I can't either. But this is how I break down TEDx's. I take what they've said of their own accord and I assess them, and then I compare them to the things they've said in the past, within the last 10 minutes or so, and see, does this even match up? And it doesn't, which just makes it more clear about how contradictory her entire thought process is on this.
She's
yeah.
God. I know
yeah, this is how I do TEDx's.
No, and I get you, and I'm just going to interrupt with how I talk.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, no, I know. I asked for it.
Take the new California law that's coming into effect. I want to say it's 2024.
Yeah.
Where all boards have to be at least 50% female.
Yes.
Have to be.
Yeah, that is a law that's actually existed in at least Paris, if not France, as a country for some time now.
Now, hang on though. That you have to be careful of the wording that I just said there.
Yeah.
At least 50% female, not 50-50.
Yes.
So you can have a board that's entirely female, and they would call it diverse.
Yes.
They would say that is a very diverse board.
Yes.
Even if every one of it could be 5 twins up there, or well, what would that be? Quintuplets. exactly 5 people who look exactly the same. Look how diverse that is just because it's women. They're what they say for diversity and what they actually mean are 2 different things.
Yeah, and like Goldman Sachs won't do anything, do any IPOs with companies who do not have some kind of parity of gender outcome on their boards anymore with companies. Yeah, this is it's insidious, is what it is. But let's
let the idiot talk.
So let me explain.
Oh, please do.
Let's say that at your company, 4% of the employees at your company are people of color.
Okay, let's look at these pie charts before they take them off, because oftentimes they cut away real quick. Okay, so the first pie chart says people of color, 4% out of all employees. And then the other pie charts titled U.S. race and ethnicity combined. So we're talking about the entire U.S. population.
Yes.
People of color would be 30% compared to, I assume, all white people and or included all Asian people. It depends on the definition these days.
Yeah, it's got to include Asian people because whites only make up about 65% of the country. So there's 5% missing there.
Okay, so by the U.S. population, and I'm going by her graphs.
Yes.
You know, we're existing in her universe for the sake of this presentation. So in her graphs, 70% of the U.S. population is white, and 30% of the population is non-white. And then she has this other pie chart which says that 4% of company X is non-white and 96% is white. Okay, that's what she's displaying. For those of you that might be listening while you're driving or something, because I have to keep in mind, for some people, this is a podcast. So,
but 30% of the U.S. population is people of color.
Yes.
So if this happens again and again, year after year at your company, that racial diversity number, it's an early indicator that it's likely that there's inequity happening somewhere in your hiring pipeline.
Yeah.
And what happens, say, with the NFL Players Association, where 60% of the employees are Black? Year after year after year, does that show that there's a problem with equity?
I'm curious to know now if she is essentially giving us bits and pieces of what she presents as a diversity, equity, inclusion trainer for companies. If she's giving us pieces of that presentation, is she advising companies to hire on the basis of race? Because that's what it sounds like she's saying.
Let me ask you this, using her same examples. Company X has 4% people of color.
Yes.
But those 4% of people of color make twice as much as everyone else. Is that equity?
No, that means that all the 96% rest are going to be stressed out and get cancer.
Huh.
I guess.
But no, that's only with racism.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be racism if they get jealous of everybody and they're all like not white?
Nah, man. This is more of the same nonsense. God, I hate these people.
I know. She really was, and those of you that were listening from the beginning, she was roping me in the first few minutes. I was like, yeah, no, I get, you're right. Diversity is an overused term, and yeah, okay, equity doesn't mean, yeah.
If I weren't me and you weren't you, and we were just some random person who found this on the internet, and we watched it and just watched straight through and just listened casually, we might go, that makes a lot of sense, because she uses a lot of different tricks in here to change around the actual conversation.
Yeah, sophistry is a good term for it, and
a very good term for it.
Yeah, and if you were watching it live, it would probably all sound really good, and it's a very sort of insidious sales pitch. But this is why, and I know this sounds weird, this is why I like watching TEDx's like this, because I can pause. I can consider what they're saying. I can compare it, contrast it with what they've said before, and also try to piece out in my own mind, like, okay, how does what they say here actually apply to reality? In the moment when you're sitting there watching it, you don't have that opportunity. And if I was sitting there watching it, I'd probably come into it with a certain level of suspicion just based on the title of the talk. But I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to think through what's being said as much as I do here, because it's all happening at once.
It's actually one of the benefits of having done videos for as long as I did. And because as we make those we stop. I'm like, all right, I got to address this because
Yes.
I'm stupid.
Script. Yeah, we're going to script it or pause. Yeah.
If you were just to watch this all at once and then go, okay, let's talk about what she said.
Right.
It's a lot harder to remember all the stupid she does.
Yeah. This is why the ability to pause videos is kind of like analyzing a text or analyzing a paper or something,
Yes.
because you have the opportunity to roll it around in your head a little bit. So, in a way, I am performing literature analysis, which is my most hated subject in college, because I don't give a shit what the soup bowl in Moby Dick meant metaphorically.
Sure.
But no, I had to be asked about that. What do you think the bowl of soup meant when Queek gave it to, like, I don't, it's a bowl of soup. Either Herman Melville was a ridiculous genius sitting down before he wrote the book and said, okay, this item in the book is going to mean this, and this is going to allude to this, or he just wrote a story about a guy chasing a fish. One of the two, but no, everything had to mean. I'm sorry, I'm having a moment of
No, I'm with you on that.
ETSD, English traumatic stress disorder. Okay, moving on.
But let's say that you change how you hire and you hire a bunch of people of color and you get it to 30% of.
Well, then you would go to jail for violation of civil rights laws. Oh, wait. Sorry. I don't know why I bring that up. Thank you, Drew W. Was it cereal or soup?
It was soup. It wasn't.
It was fish soup. Fish
Remember, guys,
soup.
not all soup is cereal. Throwing that out there. Okay. Can you let her talk for just a minute?
Let me back up because I kind of cut her off there right in the moment of revelation. Okay.
It's an early indicator
Yes.
that it's likely that there's inequity happening somewhere in your hiring pipeline.
Yes, because a statistical disparity equals a conscious thought of racism.
Yes.
Yeah, just so you know, guys, the God of the Gaps theory of statistical analysis right here. And you know what? Just because of that, I'm going to circle leaves out vital context, because to whittle everything down to something as simple as, obviously it's racism doing this, you're leaving out any other possibility.
You haven't done that yet?
No, I want see. Sometimes I wait for a very glaring example.
And again, you haven't done that yet?
No, I hadn't done that one yet.
Wow. All right.
I know. Well,
you're fairer than I am.
I get caught up in it. Sometimes I have to go back and review and like, oh yeah, she did say this, that kind of thing, because it's a organic process. The bingo card. It's also a sacred thing. The bingo card. I don't circle things that don't qualify, and I've argued with my my audience on this on several occasions. But anyway, okay.
But let's say that you change how you hire and you hire a bunch of people of color and you get it to 30% of your employees are people of color. What? We're done, right?
Oh, yeah, you're done being arrested for federal civil rights crimes. Thank you, Drew W. What if the minorities are in charge of hiring? Oh, I don't know. We'll see if she addresses that. Probably not. And thank you, Lamented Guide. But remember, Al Gore is super serial.
Now, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
It's because she's not quite done there.
No.
But I have some shit to say.
Oh, yeah. No, let's see.
Can we celebrate? Can we celebrate?
Why wouldn't we? You've already said that the absence of equity in racial outcomes is the bad thing. So why wouldn't you celebrate that?
I can think of some reasons, but I'm waiting to see what she says.
Yes, yeah, I think you're
because her obvious answer is no, guys.
Yeah,
you didn't catch that yet.
Yeah, you're becoming a TEDx aficionado just like me.
Love that you're not being like, yeah, we're done. You know, something's weird here. Because this new racial diversity number still doesn't paint the full equity picture.
Uh-oh.
Are we talking about
women?
Oh.
It doesn't tell us if those employees are being compensated equitably to their white counterparts.
Okay, wage gap. Wage gap. I'm circling wage gap right now. I don't care.
No. Because she just missed entirely. Notice, she put all people of color together here. All people. Blacks make up about 15. Well, it's 13.5% of the U.S. population.
Sure.
So let's say that as part of a diversity push, you take a company that was mostly white, with only that little 4%. But part of that 4%, or let's say that entire 4%, was Hispanic. and all you do is hire nothing but blacks to fill up the rest of that, you just overly hired blacks while underrepresenting Latinos. Where's your equity there, sweet cheeks?
And also, just like so many presentations like this, we just, I don't know, dismiss or not even consider the idea of personal merit.
Yeah.
Against like, well, now you've hired all these people that look a particular way, but they're not paid the same. Well, so because you look a particular way, you should be paid the same as someone who doesn't look like you, even if you're not doing the same work or something. Well, I'm getting ready to circle word salad on this one.
Why do those white guys in there look like they're from the Richard Spencer School of Dress?
I was about to say the haircut there is, yeah.
It doesn't tell us about how they're being treated by their white peers in everyday work lives.
You're right. You're leaving out you're leaving out vast tracts of context to what you're talking about. It's true. None of what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense, which means I'm going to circle word salad.
Did you see what she just did? It doesn't tell you how they're being treated by their white colleagues. It doesn't tell you how they're being treated by their black colleagues either.
Okay, backing up a couple seconds.
Compensated equitably to their white counterparts. It doesn't tell us about how they're being treated by their white peers in everyday work lives.
Because white peers are obviously racist.
It doesn't tell you how blacks are compensated versus Asians or versus Latinos or Eskimos or whoever the hell happens to be working there.
Okay. I'm going to go benevolent condescension because anybody who's not white is obviously a victim. And okay, let's go over the bingo card real quick. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, she hasn't put herself on the altar of I'm terrible. Takes credit blame for something done by others in their demographic. No. Childhood or family anecdote. She hasn't referred to her past yet. Gratuitous pausing for effect. Not dramatically anyway. Patriarchy. No. I mean, you could make the argument about, well, no, she hasn't actually brought up gender yet.
So you got to give her that pausing for effect when she let them all clap for her.
Well, but that's the audience interrupting her, and she doesn't.
That was her. One person said boo, and she said thank you.
Yeah, but
all right, you're right. All right.
No, gratuitous pausing for effect is somebody who they have to collect themselves. They're like, and then they continue that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but okay. All right, fair enough.
School to prison pipeline hasn't brought up a list. She hasn't listed off anything yet. She hasn't like one or two. Toxic hasn't used the word. Anecdote that probably never happened. She hasn't actually brought up any anecdotes except for that monkey testing, and she had video, so that was proof in and of itself. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase.
Wait. For anecdotes, she did tell us people who suffer racism without giving any examples at all.
That's leaving out context. She has to give an anecdote like one time my 5-year-old came up to me and said, Mom,
fair enough.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism is that kind of.
Gotcha.
I gave a personal or example anecdote that sounds too good to be true. That's kind of what I'm looking for. New buzzword, buzz phrase. All their terminology is boilerplate so far.
Yeah, it's always been for a
while. Feminism, not really. Marginalization. She hasn't used the words yet, but I might be willing to circle. She's getting close. I might be willing to circle that at the end, depending on the aggregate. Speaker should not be in current occupation. She is perfect as a diversity and inclusion trainer, and I say this from a position of mild expertise after listening to many of them. So she's fine there.
Oh, she's the kind of moron you want in that job.
Yeah. Systemic institutional. She's alluded to such things, but
she's getting real close.
She's getting close. Again, I'll assess that at the end. Plays victim. I mean, by extension of her current example, she is. But not directly.
Personally.
Right. And that's the thing. It has to, in some fashion, she has to make it about her specifically.
Yeah.
Now, if she brings up something like, I know that in the jobs I've had, like, if she does something like that, sure. And then we'll have a bingo. Cultural appropriation hasn't brought up at all. White supremacy privilege. She's hinting at it in these last few comments.
Yeah, there's like 3 of these you've just read off that she's just about to hit if it keeps going.
And again, I'll take arguments at the end of this if I choose not to circle something, but we'll review at the end.
And yet we're still, knowing this, diversity isn't the core need. Equity is the core need. Why do we talk so much more about diversity?
If equity was the core need, why do the white employees have any problem with how much anybody else is paid?
Well, besides that, how does everybody know what everybody else is paid?
Okay, you're really breaking up right now. I don't know if you're you're roboting there for a second. So try that again. And again, I don't have a third person tell me elsewise. So chat, you'll have to tell me.
You sound fine, so it had to have been me.
Okay, go ahead.
If what we do is we walk into a place and we just look around, that's the plain example.
Yes.
If you walk in and you see that there's 30% minority, that should have been enough. You have to actually go looking into people's paychecks. At that point, by her own standard, your brain should just be satisfied.
Right.
Everything's equal.
Yeah. Or everything is representative of the current population makeup of this country or something.
I said equal. Equitable.
Equitable, yeah. Okay.
I think we talk more about diversity because it's safer. When we say we are committed to diversity at our company,
yeah,
it doesn't imply anything but a wish to invite more people into our company, more minorities.
Yes, ostensibly, but there is plenty of evidence to say that the unwritten rules for HR practices is to discriminate on the basis of race and or gender and or orientation.
We talk about diversity because it's an easy sell to people, because you can easily go, look how white this group of people is.
Yeah. And
you go, see, obvious racism. You don't talk about equity because it's a lot harder to prove, because you have to go in there and go, okay, how long has Sheila worked here versus how long has Brian worked here?
Yeah.
And how much do they do? How much overtime is over here? This was the whole problem with the wage gap, is that it didn't take any of that crap into consideration.
Well, the other thing that I don't think is brought up often enough, and I know this is a very cynical viewpoint, but then we're talking about cynical thinking. Having a diversity and inclusion program at your company is, what am I trying to say? Litigation insulation. Okay. If someone comes and argues, I was discriminated against because of XYZ, a company can point to and say, we've had a 5-year history of employee resource groups. We've had diversity and inclusion training. We've had this, that, and the other. The idea that we would discriminate against you because of this, that, and the other is impossible. Now, I'm not saying that that's inherently a bad thing. I mean, corporations are not people, my friend, and they will look out for their best interests over time. Not equity, their self-interests. And so having a diversity and inclusion thing helps with not only the PR, because you don't want to be classified as a racist corporation these days at all. And when you have institutions like Goldman Sachs saying, we won't even do business with you if you don't have some kind of equity institution, gender parity thing in your board, it's becoming more a business necessity to have something like that, at least on paper, in your company. So the idea that a diversity inclusion thing is anything other than a calculated cost-benefit analysis decision on the basis of a company is being very generous to the company. In my perspective, from as many talks and experts and things that I've watched over the years. So the outcome isn't so much about giving everybody a fair chance. It's avoiding litigation. It's avoiding criticism. It's avoiding bad PR.
Sure.
And when you have people that come into the company under a diversity and inclusion program, they're going to wonder, both those who are selected, those who are not, and those who are already employed, am I only here because of my, gender, skin color, orientation, or is that person only here? It's the same problem you have with affirmative action. If you know that the system is assessing people on the basis of things that are not meritorious, you have, you're not unjustified in wondering if that person is there for anything other than non-meritorious factors. It doesn't help anything. It really doesn't. So anyway, I could go on, but we have more to go.
And inviting people, it's not that hard. I mean, it isn't, right?
It's not inviting
Really?
people. It's interviewing people. It's hiring people. It's not. It's like here's an engraved invitation.
Wait.
Why don't you come work for Microsoft just without sight unseen? It's fine.
Inviting people's not that hard. Tell that to Google.
Mm-hmm.
Google's been inviting people for years to hit their little benchmarks they've set for themselves and can't do it.
Yeah, I just did a video not too long ago about the totals, the Facebook reporting on their diversity initiatives, and how despite the fact they've been working for 6 some odd years, very focused, investing millions of dollars in their hiring and firing practices and promotion practices, they still end up with tiny percentages of who they classify as the most necessary diversity quotients. Because ultimately, if they're found out to be hiring people on the basis of their skin color, they're in deep shit. So they can talk rhetorically about their intentions all the time.
Uh-huh.
But if it comes down to, we have to hire people on the basis of their merits, and on the basis of that, if the racial demographics don't end up being what we prefer, we still have to admit that. And we still have to admit that, well, obviously then there's a statistical disparity, so Facebook is a racist company.
Yep.
Except that they're probably not. It's like, how many people come to them with resumes and experience and education that meets their requirements? And it's just how things hash out. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, okay. God. You see, this is why TEDx's are so tough. You can go off on 3-minute tangents on a 30-second soundbite.
Because I can do it right now.
Uh-huh.
I want to invite all of you. All of you. I see you up there, middle.
Yeah.
All of you here are invited
Yeah.
to my house.
Really?
Let's say tomorrow. How's that sound? 5 o'clock sound okay? Cool.
Stop.
House party.
That is not the same as a job interview, you silly bitch.
Well, and not even that, but would you really invite unvetted strangers into your home? Come on. This lady would not take someone she's never seen before, has no idea who they are, what their intentions are, to show up at her house and just say, I want to come in. You wouldn't do that. Otherwise, I would be curious to know, does this speaker have locks on her doors? If she doesn't, well, maybe she's practicing what she preaches.
If she wants to sit here and argue that the diversity pushes from a lot of companies is a bunch of nonsense that they're just doing for easy public relations, I'm not going to argue with her about that. Absolutely.
Like I said, her opening statements were things that I was like, yes, I agree. Diversity is an overused term, and it doesn't mean what we say it is.
She's like, it's just an invitation. Okay, now invite these same people to your house and promise them that you're going to give them $150,000 next year if they show up.
And what if only white people show up at your door? Are you going to let them all in, given the fact that they reflexively treat people who aren't like them differently?
She's changing the meaning of what diversity is when it comes to companies. They are specifically spending, as you just said, millions of dollars to go out and try to, in her words, invite people in. And they still can't do it. And she's still going to sit here and argue that it's giving black people heart attacks.
Oh, that's a whole lot. I did a TEDx on that. Racism causes blood clots. Okay. I'm not making that up. The argument was racism caused the racial pressure upon an individual gave them a blood clot earlier in life than they would have otherwise if they weren't subject to racism. No evidence given, just that was the case. Maybe I'll try to link. Maybe I'll try to add a link to the end of this video after we're done with this to that TEDx, because that was a really interesting TEDx, and I've heard that, and that's becoming more of an argument lately. Like racism is a public health crisis. I've heard that in the last several days, and I think it kind of harkens back to that one TEDx. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. The pepper jack is hitting me pretty hard right now, so I'm kind of loopy. Moving on.
5 o'clock sound okay? Cool. House party diversity checked off. Done. We know, right? We're like, right, who we invite into our companies onto our teams, into our neighborhoods, it is a step.
Invite into our. If I buy a house, I don't care if you give me an invitation. I live there.
It's my house.
Yeah. I mean, I live there. I paid for it. You know, you're going to treat me equitably even if I have a bigger house than you, right? Right.
So, okay. I got to get ahead of her for just a second here.
Mm-hmm.
She's making this all about, okay, Google has invited all these people, but they still haven't hired them. Is it going to be because they're not being paid equally to people that they don't know what are being paid already? Is it going to be because they won't come to work there because they know they're going to be treated differently by those white colleagues? Because that's her example, just a little bit of how are they being treated by their white colleagues? You don't know. So what's keeping them out if everything as far as they can see is, oh, cool, they're hiring more of me? I'm very curious to see if she even touches on that.
It is so bizarre to hear your words, and I don't mean this facetiously. The very way you phrase things is exactly how I phrase things as I'm watching these things. I'm very curious to know and so on. Like, you know,
anytime I'm doing a response like this, because occasionally I'll do them on Monkey in the Morning.
Yeah.
I have to be that way because I can't help but guess what these idiots are going to say.
Yeah, like I say, it goes back, and I've said this before. There was a, and you can find this on YouTube. There was a debate between Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and a couple of religious figures. And at one point in the middle of all this, Christopher Hitchens stops the whole thing and says, you know, this is what makes, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, this is what makes these talks so interesting. If you listen to Sam Harris and I, it's kind of boring because we say the same things over and over again. But when you talk to religious, you never know what they're going to say next. And when it comes to TEDx and these sales pitches over these ideas that already sound pretty shady from the various times that I've heard them, that's what kind of draws me back. Is like, I'm waiting to see, is someone going to give me the presentation of the argument that changes my mind? And B, knowing that I've heard them all before, I can't possibly guess what they're going to say next to try to give me a new spin on a bad idea, you know? So, anyway.
But it says nothing about how we'll treat them once they arrive.
Okay. Wait, that's an applause line? That's an... I don't mean to, you know, fall back to that one line I had for the TEDx a couple back, but seriously, that's an applause line. Portland is very accommodating.
Oh,
yeah, no, I know. I'm preaching to the choir here, but all the same.
How we treat them and changing how we treat them once they arrive, that would take changing our old brain.
You mean the white brain? Because you said that treating them differently is all a white thing, right?
And it also takes changing our systems.
Our systems?
And I know that changing our old brain and changing our systems, that's intense. That's daunting.
Yeah, so just so you know, all you people who treat people differently, you can't help it. It's not your fault. You're born with it. You're going to have to put a lot of effort in to fight back against your obviously inborn biases. I'm not talking about original sin here, but I'm just talking about the stamp of your lowly origins being forever there and stained upon your soul. Thank you, John Miller. Man, I would love to have that party sign. I prefer to eat alone. The neo-Catholicism, I'm telling you.
I know this.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, what does the research say about how humans achieve daunting goals?
Daunting goals.
The research says 3 things.
Oh, a list. Oh my God, a list. I'm circling a list. 3 things. That is a list. All right. Whoops. That is an oval. That is not a circle. Let me make sure. I think my inebriated reflexes are getting to me.
It says we need to verbalize the goal. We need to make it measurable. We need to make it time-bound.
Verbalize, measurable, time-bound. Okay. I mean, on its face, I guess that's not a bad way of looking at setting up a goal. Like, You know, putting into very stark contrast, like I am going to lose 15 pounds by the end of the month. So that means that in the next 30 days, I have to lose XYZ amount of weight, and has to be done obviously within 30. Okay, that makes sense.
Time out.
Yeah.
Because she's talking about how you get equity in this company that has invited all of these people of color in.
Okay, well,
and what were the two questions that she asked?
Right.
Are they paid the same?
Yeah.
And are they treated the same by white people?
Yes.
Okay. Paid the same, you can measure. How do you measure treating the same?
I don't know. Well, okay, but let's take that example. Okay, verbalize, measurable, time bound. Okay, so what is the goal in regards to? Okay, the goal is equity. Okay, and measurable.
Something that's provable, something you can show. This is what.
No, I know, but how do you measure equity?
Well, I mean, if it's pay, you can go, okay, everybody at this company is making $30,000 equitable. There you go.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can do that.
But she's talking about an abstract, like how someone is treated, quote unquote.
Right. That was the third aspect of so far what she's given us of equity. So how do you prove that?
Yeah. And then that comes down to a subjective measurement, if you can even call it that, of individual to individual, interaction by interaction, and so on. But okay, but let's say that you equate the outcome, God forbid, of pay, benefits, position as treated the same. Okay, then you could conceivably measure it as well. If you set aside personal interactions, just look at how much am I paid? Do I have the same opportunity for promotion as the next person? And, do I have the same benefits package as the person who's right beside me in the same position, et cetera?
Let me give you an example here.
Okay.
That would make this a problem. Let's say Tom is having a party and he invites everybody in the office.
Yeah.
But he invites everybody in the office that he thinks is going to be available. He knows Sheila has 2 kids. She's a single mom and always has to leave work right at the end of the day so she can get her kids because she spends all night with her kids. So he doesn't even bother inviting her. Was he being racist? Now, Sheila only knows she didn't get invited. She doesn't know that Tom actually put thought into why he didn't invite her. And somebody goes, look, that white guy didn't treat me the same.
Yeah, no, it's about feelings. It's about subjectivity.
You can't measure that.
Thank you, Point Curation. In regards to the Melville question, did I make a Melville? No, I guess I did. The answer is that we know more than we know. Artists can put more insight into works than they attend. Well, that's true. And I had this experience I had this experience in college. I had a class that was just titled Sex and Death, right? And all it was, the entire class was you had to write 2 stories over the course of the semester, one on sex and one on death. The only overriding rule was you had to avoid cliche. You could not write a story about death where somebody's on their deathbed and confessing something. You had to write a story about death that was in the abstract in some fashion. And I wrote this story that I won't give all the context, but part of the story had to do with a bunch of dead fish on the ground. Okay. And the way I described it was there were a bunch of, from where I stood, it looked as though there were a bunch of cut in half paper plates lying amidst a trench. That's how I described it, relatively speaking. And I wrote this story, and that was just how I described it, right? After I presented the story to the class, somebody came up to me after the class and said, man, I was really impressed by the war imagery you used by talking about the bodies amongst the trench. And I just nodded and smiled like, oh, yeah, you noticed that? Because I am totally willing to take credit for somebody else's imagination giving me credit.
And that's what I was just going to say there. I mean,
yeah.
I can put no more insight into something than I mean to. You can find insight in what I wrote.
Yes.
That's different.
Yes, you can find secret messages in the pattern on someone's tie if you try hard enough. Okay? But that is all subjective. That's all on you. You can read between the lines of a cookbook. Yep. And you can even ask the author, did you mean this? I actually had that experience in college. And this for all the guff that I give some of my English teachers, the one interesting interaction I had in one class was that she said, you can have extra credit if you go to this presentation by this published author and just sit in and ask questions and sort of, and I listened to this guy talk for, he was, I could name him, but either way, he wrote a series of successful sort of legal mystery novels. Okay. He was sort of like the poor man's John Grisham, let's say. Mm-hmm. And he talked for like 20, 30 minutes or something on the business of being an author. Like, this book did well, and then I had to market for this. And boy, oh boy, do I wish I was like Sue Grafton, who wrote all those A is for adultery and B is for betrayal books, because she had at least 26 books lined up just on the basis of the alphabet.
Right. And
all that stuff. And he talked about 30 minutes on the business. And I looked at him, I said, and when it came to question time, he says, anybody have any questions? And I said, because I had grown up amongst writers and other English majors and language teachers with that sort of the craft of writing, right? And all I heard from this guy was the bare bones of how to make a living as an author. And I asked him, do you like writing? That was my question to the guy. Because at no point during the course of this did he talk about, the inspiration or the imagination or the joy of it or anything else. And that's all I'd been had pumped into me from teachers in my past at that point. I asked him, do you actually like writing? And he actually paused. This professional, decades-long writer of mystery novels, he paused and looked up in the air like he's really thinking about it for a second. He says, I think I'm good at it. It's my business. It's my livelihood. It's how I put my kids through college. I think I'm a competent writer. I mean, he really had to put a lot of thought into this, because writing something, putting something out there, it is an abstract. It is up to the observer to make an assessment for their own interpretation. You can't necessarily know the mind of someone just by looking at something.
I do wonder how many people, like you talking about your Moby Dick thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it? Twain, who said, I didn't realize I said so much.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder how many of them, if they heard English classes, like, what did the soup bowl mean? And he'd be like, I was just talking about soup, didn't y'all?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's parts where they're like, I actually meant this thing over here that nobody's ever once mentioned.
Well, I mean, in that very class where the whole soup bowl thing came up, and I'm not even kidding, that came up in the class from the teacher, like, what is a soup bowl? And I honestly said the old Freud thing. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Right.
There's no mystery behind it. I mean, you can implant whatever extra meaning you want. And if that makes you enjoy or appreciate the work better for yourself, by all means, nobody's stopping you. Once somebody puts something out into the public domain, whatever they take from it for their own, that's entirely theirs. And that's fine.
Part of the joy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the joy of it. So you can look at a painting and have a completely different experience from looking at it than the person standing next to you who goes like, it's kind of boring. That's fine.
Yeah. Like, this blue represents melancholy, and the painter's like, that's just all I had left.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, I ran out of yellow paint that day. Exactly. Paper plates amongst the trench. Oh, World War I imagery, huh? Sure. If that makes you think I'm more brilliant than I think of myself, I'll take it. And honestly, back then I did. Anyway, back to the show.
Verbalize it, make it measurable, make it time bound.
Okay. Diversity.
Here's the really cool thing.
Okay. I'm dying
50 years ago.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah. Okay. So that was 2019, 50 years ago, 2040 back, 69. 69. Okay. 69 April. Okay. All right. 69.
Our nation achieved a huge, daunting goal.
Okay.
Using this very formula.
Landing on the moon.
Except
1969.
That wasn't in April. That was in July.
Well, but she said this year. She didn't say this month.
Oh, but you brought up the month.
No, I said 19. I said 50 years ago from then. I didn't bring up the month.
Didn't he just say April?
No, I didn't say April. I said that year.
Somebody just said April, and it wasn't me.
Did I say April 50 years ago from April? I mean, given how inebriated I am, I'll admit that it's possible. But I don't think I
heard the word April.
I don't think I had an Raymond Burr moment just then.
When was this? Oh, she said April. See,
she said April. Okay. All right, she said April, but I said the year. Yeah, okay, 50 years ago, and I did the math. That's all I
And
did.
she said April, and you said landing on the moon, and that's why I said July was.
Well, no, but
landing
I
on the
was
moon.
only thinking of 69 and what a momentous event would have been in 69. I wasn't thinking of April.
And I was correcting you.
Oh, okay, all right, moving on.
So 1962.
What?
She's going back to when Kennedy said we're going to land a person on the moon by the end of the decade.
Oh, okay. You're right. Okay, I'm like, wait a second. 50 years ago when you bring up 19, okay.
President Kennedy
Yes.
addresses the nation.
Oh my God, I can't believe that this talk references the moon. Oh, I'm so happy right now. Oh, this is so cool.
With a very bold and seemingly at the time impossible goal.
Yes.
He says,
Yes.
we choose to go to the moon
Yes.
in this decade.
Yes.
Notice, he didn't say, we care about going to the moon in this decade.
Yes.
Now, he also definitely didn't say, we're going to form a space committee in this decade. Yeah.
If only we still set such lofty goals for ourselves in this country. You know, I always look back, and honestly, I'm glad she brought this up. I always look back to that moment as, and not to give Kennedy more credit or less credit than he deserves as an individual. I'm just talking about like setting a big goal for ourselves as a nation, as a people, whatever, and actually trying to achieve it, even if it seems impossible, at least going for it. And I wish we had more of that, but it's always this hemming and hawing and kind of, and we hope within the next blah, blah, blah. Just set it. Just say, we are going to do this, hell or high water, the end. I wish we were more like that.
I quite agree with you on that, but with what she's doing here, this is more dirty pool.
I know. She's bringing up one of the most premier examples of setting a goal, a goal that far exceeds anything having to do with temporal or personal ambition. Yeah, go ahead.
Landing on the moon is measurable.
Yes. Well, that's what she's saying. It's not only is it verbalized, he verbalized it.
Are white people treating you the same as they treat everyone else is not measurable. Her standard, not mine.
Yeah.
Nope. He verbalized the goal.
Yes.
He made it measurable. He made it time bound.
Well, the time bound and measurable are intertwined, but okay, sure. Okay, within this decade, okay. Well, I mean, and if you say like we will land a man on the moon, that's a measurable goal in effect. Okay.
We reached that goal in 7 years. In 1969, moon landing, bam, done.
Yeah, if only we still had that sense of stick-to-itiveness and ambition in this country for big ideas and big goals.
She just did something. Okay, look, it was amazing we did it in 7 years.
Yes. Even though the people died in the process, because Gus Grissom and those guys in that test capsule thing, there were sacrifices, there were mistakes made. Yeah, Apollo 9.
No, was it 9? 9 was the. No, was 11 the landing?
11 was the landing.
So 9 is the one that burned up.
9, I believe 9 was the one that burned up, and that was. Yeah, and that was one of those speed kills situations.
But anyway. We only made the goal that we did it in 7 years. Yeah, we only made his goal by 5 months.
Yeah.
And that's not to take anything away, but we did it in 7 years because we were running out of the time.
Yeah, and here's the thing, we were competing with the Russians. So tell me again about the core value of equity. If it was equity, wouldn't we be working with the Russians? Oh.
Okay. So rereading a speech, I realized,
by the way, no black people on the Apollo missions. That wasn't very equitable.
All of America was on that mission, Monkey. In spirit.
The moon mission gave several black people heart attacks.
Spirit in the sky, Monkey. Spirit in the sky.
To verbalize the right goal.
Okay, sorry, I got to back up. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
7 years. In 1969, moon landing, bam, done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So rereading a speech, I realized, one, we need to verbalize the right goal.
The right goal.
The goal isn't diversity.
Yeah.
It's equity.
The goal is equity.
No, it's not.
How
No,
was
it's
the
not.
moon landing an equitable endeavor? It was America getting there before the Russians. It was
Well,
competition.
okay. In fairness to her, she's just saying she's using that as a metaphor for the right goal. So I can give her that.
Okay.
But you cannot measure equity when you are talking about things like amount of work put in. You just can't.
And why didn't you land all Americans on the moon? I mean, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Collins, those guys, they're the only three that got to land that day. Well, why didn't my parents get to land on the moon? Why wasn't the whole nation? I know I'm being ridiculous, but then a lot of this is.
Yeah. What is it that Milo says? Outrage deserves outrageousness.
That's half of the show.
Right?
Woo! Yeah, woo!
Go back just a sec.
Sorry?
Go back just a sec.
Oh, to what you said before? Okay.
From a space committee in this decade. Nope. He verbalized the goal. He made it measurable. He made it hella time-bound. We reached that goal in 7 years. In 1969, moon landing, bam, done. Okay, so rereading a speech, I realized, one, we need to verbalize the right goal. The goal isn't diversity. The goal is equity.
Okay.
Hell
she deserves
yeah.
a pause thing right there. She had there was a little pause, and then she actually paused. Does a pause for applause break that she's expecting count as the dramatic pause?
See, okay, and I'm not saying it's a no outright, but when I think of like pausing, gratuitous pausing for effect, it's somebody who like is being a drama queen about it.
Okay,
like,
she's annoying me with how she does it, but all right, fair enough.
Okay, well, like I say, by the end of this, I will take arguments. I have a little flexibility in my mind, but I mean, if the bingo card is to mean anything, there has to be some boundaries on what qualifies and what doesn't.
Look how happy she is with herself.
I know. Isn't she though?
Smug little. I'm so smart.
We need to do like a find and replace in our vocabulary.
You know, I wish more people would do that with some of the things they're putting out there these days, specifically white and black, and see how things hold up if they do that, because it really doesn't if you do that. But what do I know? Diversity. Our company is I'm reading on the cue card that she's got up here. Human Resources Manual. Our company is committed to fostering, cultivating, and preserving a culture of diversity and inclusion. Our human capital. You know, I always thought human capital sounded so fucking inhumane.
It does.
It's like filling up a train car with people. Our human capital is the most valuable asset we have. The collective sum of the individual differences, and then it cuts off. It just sounds
so now read it with equity instead of diversity.
Oh, sorry. Our company is committed to fostering, cultivating, and preserving a culture of equity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Equality of outcome, but also bringing everybody in so they all get treated and have the exact same experiences, outcomes as everybody else, which that's not how life works, guys. I hate to tell you this.
Couldn't you just get rid of a culture of equity? You don't need the inclusion at that part, especially not with her version of what that means.
Right. Yeah, you could remove the inclusion thing. Equity seems to cover all the bases by itself.
Yeah.
Right?
This is where I didn't sort of chink right situation. But anyway.
We need to do a find and replace in our vocabulary, in our HR manuals, some of us in our job titles, in our everyday work lives.
Our job titles? You mean like diversity and inclusion officers? They should be equity and inclusion officers? Oh, very interesting. Okay.
We need to swap out diversity for equity.
No.
Even though they don't mean anywhere near the same thing.
Well, remember, she's talking about the end goal.
No, I know. The timely, measurable goal of equity.
The right goal.
The right goal.
One. But two, Kennedy's speech made me realize also, it's time. It's time that we made this goal measurable and time-bound.
Okay, I am curious to know, how do you make equity measurable, and how do you set a deadline? And what happens if you pass that deadline and you haven't achieved it? Because I've heard, I cannot count how many times I've heard someone say something to the effect of, people need to be held accountable for X, but they never say how. Like, accountable how? Like if I break the law, I'm held accountable by the rule of the law. If you set a goal in your company for, we will achieve a gender parity in our workforce by 2021, and we'll be held accountable, like, if you don't make it, do you resign? Because I've never heard that specified in any of these corporate presentations. I'm always wondering, because accountability is used often, but rarely ever defined. Now, I don't know if he's going to say that here, but, you know, like I say, tangents.
So what this looks like on the ground is that instead of saying that you care about hiring for diversity, instead say that you will achieve racial and gender equity in your hiring procedures in 3 years.
Time out.
Setting quotas. Okay, so you're going to set racial and gender quotas within a 3-year time span.
Well,
okay.
You have to remember also, because she's the one that did this. I'm not being nitpicky here. She brought it up.
Yes.
Part of her inclusion and part of her equity was hiring the same number of minorities percentage-wise as there is in the country.
Yes.
Specifically in her persons of color.
Yes.
Okay. Do you fire if you have more? Is that equity?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Like, okay, so let's say, and just taking one demographic, let's say you've got, and I'll take our pie chart. There's, and I know this is, you know, fantastical, but just for the sake of argument. Okay. You got a company, 96% male, 30%, no, wait, 96%, Jesus Christ.
4%.
96% male, 4% female.
He's English major, not math, guys.
Yeah, and I'm also hopped up on Pepper Jack. Okay. And so you want to achieve racial and gender equity in 3 years. Okay, so that means in 3 years' time, you're going to have to change all of your hiring practices to achieve the goal of 50-50 workforce inclusion, male and female.
No, right? It's actually more female than male, so 51-49-ish.
No, she's talking about equity. She's not talking about demographic synchronicity.
She was, though. That was part of her.
Well, I know, but I'm just going to take it on what she said, that people are treated fairly. Okay. So if you have a company that's been around for X number of years and you've hired people, how do you avoid hiring people on the basis of gender in order to achieve that goal? How do you, and then this card right here, how do you avoid hiring people on the basis of race in order to achieve that goal? How do you do that? If you set your goal on the parameters of race and gender, you're going to run into civil rights laws immediately. How do you avoid
what would happen if you get on a plane? And as you get on, they tell you you've been fired because you're white and they need to give your job to a black woman.
Yeah.
I wonder what the air rage would be like on that plane.
Yeah, because ultimately, like, let's say you reach gender parity. Or gender equity, sorry. And then someone comes to apply for a job. 2 people apply, a male and a female. If you hire the female, you'll go 51% in one direction. So in order to keep equity, and I know I'm not accidentally moving those things together. You're going to have to hire the male to avoid violating that 50-50 thing. Well, then you're going to discriminate against the very type of person that supposedly you were trying to help in your original goal.
Well, that's why the California law is only has to be at least 50% women, not 50% men.
Right. Yeah.
Not equal. It's just for the women. But
and I cannot count how many times I've asked this question in videos I've done. When someone stands on a stage and declares that this is their goal or that this is what they're advising companies to do and so on, how does this not immediately call for, or at least encourage, an investigation into civil rights violations of companies that would take this advice? How?
Let me go one better than that. Let's say okay, your company right now is at the 50-50 mark, and you have to hire one, a male or a female, right?
Yeah.
And to make sure you stay on the right side of things, you hire that female, even though she has no experience. All she's got is a college degree. She's never actually worked in the field before. On the other side, you have a guy with 20 years of proven experience. If you are a publicly traded company, you are supposed to do everything you can to help make your company better, help it grow. And you just did not do that. I don't see how a lot of these things are not breaking FEC aren't FEC violations. Because you can't tell me that somebody who doesn't have experience, when you have a chance to hire somebody who's obviously more qualified for the job, but they got the wrong genitals, they got the wrong skin color. You're not hiring for the best for your company and the best for your investors.
And see, this is the conflict I saw in that Facebook video I did a while back, where they talked about their current status of diversity and inclusion, and they showed all the percentages of how many employees they had in this demographic or that demographic. And they talked so regretfully about, we still have a long way to go and a lot of work to do. It's because I think at the core, especially at least in Facebook's situation, they know they can't actually hire people on the basis of these attributes without violating federal law. But they put out their hiring apparatus. They try to recruit from specific demographics to try to bring more people in to pad those numbers. But when they're unable to achieve that for whatever reason, they still have to report the truth, and they also still have to adhere to the law. So no matter how much you try to set a quota, if you're actually caught having written down or articulated rules in emails or otherwise saying that, hey, HR, this is how you hire for people on the basis of race, gender, orientation, because we need to get our numbers up. Nobody can actually say that without risking a massive class action lawsuit. So it's the rhetoric coming up against the realities of both the law and decency. And also, like you say, the bottom line of putting the most value into a company for the shareholders or for the owners, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These things conflict with each other. So a lot of this, and what she's talking about right now, is just PR lip service. Because mechanically speaking, functionally speaking, they couldn't actually operate this way without walking a tightrope over a pit full of spikes called civil rights violations. Thank you. This is Kyle. This argument for equity has the same obvious problem the argument for representation has. So if minorities are the majority in a company, do you fire the black people? Well, that is the ultimate question. You know, it's like, are you going, if you go over the limit of what you were trying to achieve in quote unquote equity, in order to keep that equilibrium, do you end up having to victimize the very people you were supposedly trying to help? I don't know. I'd be curious to find out.
So far in both arguments, no, because it only applies to getting rid of whites and males.
Until they reach some kind of equity and then have to maintain it. This is the part that they never address. I mean, once you've reached it, how do you maintain it without also putting the same people you were trying to help based on what they looked like at risk?
Because it's not about actual equity. It's not about actual representation. Yeah. It is about just getting more blacks hired, getting more Asians hired, more Latino. Actually, they never say Asians. They don't care about them. And
honestly, like someone like our speaker, and I'm not reading minds. I'm just saying sort of on a sort of mercenary interpretation. She doesn't want equity. She doesn't want actual fairness, parity, equal outcome to actually occur in companies, because then she'd have nobody to talk to. She'd have no career. As long as there is a disparity, there will be space for people to argue that is inherently an evil.
And you can see it in her argument, because it's always been about diversity. That's why we got to change it from diversity. Why? Because there's already been such a push for diversity. You're already seeing more minority hires. She sees her job going away. Ooh, wait a minute.
Yeah. Thank you, Officer.
Fix that.
Thank you, Officer Buck. What if this is an international company based in the U.S.? Is the equity based on the U.S. or the world at large? Who knows?
As long as they're here in the U.S., it'd be based on the U.S.
Right. Well, I mean, I've seen I think one of the very first diversity videos I did was on some kind of like bank or financial institution that said, we want our offices to reflect the community in which they serve. And so I'm like, okay, well, if your office is in Connecticut, then you're going to have 70% white people in your office then, right? And that's going to be diversity, right?
Except no.
Except no, but yeah.
That's it.
Wait, she gives a hypothetical goal for a hypothetical company, and that's an applause line?
Oh, no, that wasn't hypothetical. That's what we all need to do. Look at all them hippies clap.
Was that girl in the front wearing one of those Women's March? Is that? No.
It might be.
I don't see the ears on it. Like it's hard
kind
to
of
tell.
pointed, but she'd have to turn her head to be able to see for sure.
Yeah, I was curious if that was like a Women's March hat or
the kitty cat hat.
The kitty cat, yeah.
If you're a smaller company, right? If you're a small company, you can do it in less time.
No,
actually, that makes it harder.
It makes it much, much harder. When you have
tell she's never run a business, guys.
I work in a small company. Everybody's very specialized. And we have, I mean, if I had to crow about my company, the company that I'm in, relatively speaking, we have a very diverse workforce, but they weren't hired because of what they look like. They're hired because of what they can do. They're hired because of their talent. And that's just I guess, pleasant outgrowth of just hiring people that know what they're doing. Because I'll tell you what, we've had plenty of people come into the company who are quote unquote diverse, who didn't know what they were doing, screwed up, and they were out the door because we're a small company. We can't afford dead weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, small company, it's not easy. You might end up that way, but it's not easy, especially if you're trying to maximize your efficiency and the amount of money you've got to spend, which in a small company is not much. So you got to find people who know what they're doing, do it well, and are going to be consistent in their performance. And that consideration supersedes any considerations of appearance. I'll tell you what. Thank you, Officer Buck. So the branches are in other countries have to reflect the U.S. Good luck hiring black people in China's branch.
No, only the branch that's here has to do it. In other countries, they have to reflect their hiring practices.
Where it is physically residing. Let's put it that way.
As in Rome, or when you're in Rome.
When in Rome, yeah.
In Rome.
You can.
No, you can't. Not inherently. Not easily. That's not how it works. I'm sorry. You don't know what you're talking about there.
It also means that instead of saying things like, we value diversity in our employees.
How about we value talent? We value output. We value loyalty. We value hard work. How about that?
No.
How about that? Like I don't want diversity when it comes to work ethic. Is that an evil thing to say in a small company or in a big company? I don't want diversity when it comes to work ethic. I want everybody with a solid work ethic. Is that a kind of equity I can hope for, or at least try to achieve?
No.
Oh, okay.
Instead, you influence your leaders to commit to, there we go, increasing racial and gender representation on your executive team by 50% in 3 years.
What? Okay, one. What if there's all white males on there? You can increase it, the black side of it 100%. You know what 100% times 0 is? It's 0.
Wait. Increase racial and gender representation. So wait, okay. What does representation mean? Does I have to have, like, if I have a 12-member board or executive team, okay, 12-member executive team. So 6 have to be white, I guess, and or mixture of male and female. So 3 males, 3 females that are white, and then 50% have to be representative of what? Just not white people, or 1 Hispanic, 1 African, 1 Asian person, 1 Eskimo, 1 Native American. What does that mean?
I guarantee you, she doesn't mean what she said there.
You can say that.
That's not what she meant. It's the California law. It's the California law. It's not that if it's an all black board, then you have to get a white person in there. Oh, no. If it's an all female board, you have to get a man on there. No, that ain't what she means. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
Right?
And I know some of you are like, give me the big stuff. I want to run with the big dogs.
What? Okay.
Give me the big stuff.
Instead of saying that you're going to form a diversity committee, hire outside experts.
Like you.
Like you.
Like you. Oh, this is all a sales pitch. Oh, no.
To help you audit for
Yeah.
and then achieve equity in salary and promotions.
That's not how life works.
Okay. Let's just take the gender thing.
She's selling herself on this, not reality. Okay.
They have found that in many companies, women don't want to move ahead at a certain point. A lot of women don't want to go into the executive, especially if they have families. Study after study after study after study have shown that women value time off far more than men do, often for family functions, friend gatherings, that kind of stuff. And they see it takes a much bigger investment of time, so they don't want to. There have been companies that have to force women into these positions, and then you know what happens? They fail. How about this? How about merit and people who are actually wanting to do the fucking job?
Regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of all these things that should not matter, and by law, you will be penalized for making considerations in your decisions.
Except for some reason we're not. You know what we should do? Just give everybody grapes.
Thank you, Drew W. Will they expand the board for all 56 genders?
78.
Oh, is it 78 now?
Yeah, well, it was back then.
Okay.
You can do it in 2 years.
No, you can't. And you wouldn't want to. And if you did, and like I say, to this moment, I am boggled that more companies that have people go out on stages and publicly state, we are working towards X, whatever demographic parity, etc., quota system, are not immediately cited for investigation into civil rights violations, because they're telling you they're instituting a culture, if not a written down doctrine, of discrimination.
Here's the thing. With what she's told us so far, you don't need to hire somebody outside to do this. All you got to do is bring up your list. Like, is everybody making the same money? Nope. All right. Well, bring everybody the same amount. Done.
Yeah. Regardless of tenure, regardless of experience. And you want to see what happens when you give the same salary to someone that's been there for 2 weeks versus someone that's been there for 20 years? Yeah. You want to talk about inflamed stress? Yeah, I'll show you. Effort and time put in versus someone who hasn't. Yeah, self-survival, self-preservation. Yeah, that'll kick in too.
Or you promote Mary, who's only been there for a year, over Fred, who's been there for 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
or
luck
vice
with
versa.
that.
Vice versa. Yeah, either way.
No, that ain't
I know.
Stop it.
You can.
No, you can't. I mean, you can, but it would fuck your company.
I want you to walk out of here today. I want you to be the one to first replace conversations about diversity with conversations about equity.
Is she the one I have to blame for having to hear equity so much in the last year?
Oh, no, dude. I mean, I've been doing these videos for 3.5 years now, more. Equity was big business speak long before this presentation took place. Now, I mean, she might be perpetuating it, certainly, but she's not the source at all.
I wouldn't blame her anyway.
That's entirely your prerogative.
I want you to be the one to ask your leadership, ask your peers.
You mean guilt? Ask or guilt, might I inquire?
Let's make it measurable. Let's make it time-bound.
Let's make it a quota on a calendar. Okay.
Because diversity.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to circle the pausing for dramatic effect at that point.
Thank you.
She's doing it now. You know, at least in the aggregate, if not this very moment, circling that one.
Isn't what we're looking for. What we really want, right? What we really want.
Right.
All of us.
Yes.
Is equity.
No,
Thank you.
I don't.
No. I don't want the serial killer in jail to be treated the same way as I am. I don't want somebody who works less, puts in less effort than I do to be paid the same. And no reasonable person would say so unless they were nuts. So no, we do not want equity as a species. We want to be treated fairly under the law. We want to be treated fairly in the absence of any reason otherwise by other people we encounter. Respect as human beings, respect as individuals, and so on. But at the end of the day, we want to be treated commensurate to what we put into the process. That's why you see people who, like, they make one video on YouTube and suddenly have 3 million viewers for some reason. Whereas a lot of us are like, you know, making videos for 3 years and doing a whole bunch of effort and scripting and editing and everything else and don't get anywhere. I don't have any aggravation towards them, but that's not how things should work in an equitable society. But then it's not equitable. Because if Brie Larson puts up a YouTube channel, of course she's going to have more subscribers. She's got a name, she's got fame and everything else. I don't expect more of myself than of someone who's already got a leg up on the situation.
You just sold me on her argument. I need most of Brie Larson's subscribers because I've been here a lot longer than that flat-footed bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Except that, as I said, life is not fair. It's not equitable.
She just told me it needs to be. I am committing YouTube to 60 days to make this happen. That is a achievable timetable.
All right, measurable. Guys. So let me. Okay, so I'm going to go over the bingo card one more time here. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No, she was never putting herself down. Takes credit for something done by others in their demographic. No. Not that I heard. Childhood or family anecdote? She never really talked about herself, honestly. Patriarchy?
No, not really.
Not really. She talked more about race than she did about gender. It was mentioned, but it wasn't the focus. School to prison pipeline? No. Toxic? No. Anecdote that probably never happened? No. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase? There was nothing new there. It's nothing I haven't heard in one way, shape, or form than from dozens of others. Feminism? No. She didn't give out any tenets. I mean, you could say, oh, well, the wage gap and gender and that. Yeah, but she was talking more about race than she was about gender and talking about the evil of men specifically. She's talking about white people. Even
in that, she was very careful to only ever say gender. She never actually said women.
That's true. Marginalization, marginalized. Not explicitly.
No.
Speaker should not be encouraged. No, she's perfectly situated where she should be. She's perfect. She's doing exactly what I would expect of any diversity inclusion officer, except she's putting her own new spin on it by saying, oh, we need to do away with diversity and move with equity, which dozens of people have come up with before, but she's like sounding like she's counterintuitive, the whole thing. So that might be her sales pitch, but that does not disqualify her from her position. Systemic institutional. She never used the words or the concepts. But there was a lot of implication there.
Yeah, she was very she's a good salesperson.
She's careful. She's very careful she's very careful what she says. So for the moment, I'm going to not circle that one. Chat, I'll take arguments. Plays victim.
No, because again, she didn't necessarily make it about herself ever.
Right. Now, as far as the demographics that she would be included in, she would classify herself as a victim, at least in the abstract. But explicitly or literally, she never really did play down herself or her own experience. So I'm a little iffy on that one, more iffy than I am towards it. So that would bring us a bingo, but I'm not there. Cultural appropriation never came up. White supremacy privilege. She brought up white people and her assumptions of their behaviors and everything, and how, I mean, in the pie charts alone, it showed 69% are blank versus 4% the, so supremacy, at least by implication, is there.
Yeah, but okay, well, what's the exact square again?
It just says white supremacy / privilege if they bring up either concept.
Again, I'm gonna say she really didn't. She might have hinted to it that maybe the company is leaning white, but she never she never said it was because of any white supremacy or anything like that. She didn't assign motivation to it.
Okay, well, well, it's cut off, unfortunately. I can't do anything about that. But I brought up the bingo card. You can make out all the relevant squares there. That's where we're at. And now, chat, for the next couple of minutes, only a couple of minutes, because I understood we go over time than I usually do because we have a second speaker on. But I do want to wrap this up soon because I got to have some lunch. So if you guys have any arguments for any squares that have not yet been circled, by all means, put them in the chat now. Reminder, if you'd like to hear more from me or Ranting Monkey or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find us tonight on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for Lords of the Night, where we'll go over the news of the day, stories submitted by you, what we've been up to on the intertubes, and then your questions and or comments, like I'm looking at now.
What's the one under word salad? I can't see that one.
Plays victim. That's one we were debating over.
I don't think she never really did. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't make herself. Like I say, by extension, she put herself in the category that was being underserved, let's say. But she never made it personal, which again is a good sales tactic to not make it sound like a poor me story and talk to the audience. Yep.
Very good at whoever wrote this for her, if she wrote it herself, very good at marketing.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, she opened up with a lot of things, and those of you that were there for the beginning heard it. She opened up with a lot of things that I could sort of nod and smile like it. Yeah, I've overheard diversity quite a bit. And yeah, equity should mean fairness. And yeah, okay. Leading us in Trojan horse, and then drops the other shoe. Let's see. Parody Bear. Everyone knows competence and hard work is bigoted if the successful person is content. Hardworking fools. Yeah. Let's see. John Miller. Was this just a... I mean, and again, I'm not a mind reader, but at least ostensibly, this was a sales pitch for her services. And I don't know how she was introduced. This is the thing. The video starts when she comes out on stage and is hugging whoever was there, which I assume is someone who introduced her. So if the introduction included her occupation or her area of expertise, and then she did this talk, sure, it was a self-promotional advertisement. But, obviously she's promoting for all diversity and inclusion coaches because she believes in equity, not personal benefit. Right? Right. Let's see. Anything else, guys? Or else I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick. Assassin the Grey. She directly inferred white devil supremacy with the entire lecture. That is what she wants to destroy with my diversity. Okay. By singling out the white contingent of anything, does that equate to white supremacy privilege, you think?
I don't. I would argue that that's not.
She said that was the reality. And the statistical norm she found that she didn't say that was an ideology.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. And just to correct myself, she did talk about how your white colleagues treat you, as though there was some situation where people being white made them think differently about anyone who wasn't. So that, I mean, it was subtle. I still can't give that to her. I don't see the white supremacist argument, white privilege argument there. She didn't say white people don't have to worry about how other people or how other white people are treating them. Yeah, but she did classify white people as thinking differently than anyone who wasn't, and thinking downward of anybody who wasn't.
She just said it doesn't tell us how they're treating you.
So Mamulation says respect for the bingo cards. Yeah, no, bingo card's sacred. I'm not going to circle anything that isn't there, and I have a little angel on my shoulder here. So, so far as I can tell, guys, we've circled everything we're going to circle. We came up just short. Whether you want to call that a good thing or a bad thing, I guess it's on your perspective. But there you go. There's the bingo card.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
As several people have pointed out, there's a wiener on the screen, so that should work.
There's a what? I see. Yeah, I guess if you look at it that way, from a certain point of view, we did achieve.
Bingo, but you got the boner, guys.
Yeah, we did achieve a slightly phallic symbol, but I guess that just goes along with having monkey dick on the stream.
Indeed.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining both of us for this enlightening experience on a sales pitch and a new way of trying to sell diversity without selling diversity. It's the reverse psychology of it. Monkey, thank you so much for joining me on this. I have been looking forward to having a tandem with you for quite a while now.
Thanks for having me. Sorry I was late because
no, it's fine. Sleeping. No, it's live TV. What are you going to do? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I had fun.
Yeah.
It is always sad to get to so many of these TEDx talks, that the ones that I've done at least, at the end you realize it's just a sales pitch for their service.
Yeah, I've encountered quite a few of those. Yeah.
Every time you get to the end there, it's like, oh, come on, really?
Yeah. Whether it's this app I developed, which I'm not going to tell you I'm actually developing, but I'm just going to mention it, or the pants with a zipper in the back so women can go pee in the woods when they're out hiking. Yeah, I've done those before. It's always fun. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for Lords of the Night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Satsu 2 Senses channel if you'd like to hear more from me and Monkey. If you'd like to hear from either of us in general, look us up on Twitter or YouTube. I don't think I have Monkey's link in the description, but I will add it after this for reference. And if I also am very ambitious, I'll remember to put in the link to the TEDx talk I did in the past about how racism causes blood clots, because I thought that was always an interesting one. Either way, everyone, thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, get well soon. And we will both see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.